Good afternoon and welcome, especially to the Steinmark family and the Longhorns of the late 1960s. I am honored to join you in this celebration. On September the 27th, 1968, I made my first trip as a representative of the Sports Information Office at the University of Texas. I was 26 years old when I climbed the steps of a Braniff Electra propeller-driven plane and settled into my seat traveling to Lubbock with the Texas Longhorn football team. Seated beside me was a very bright-eyed young sophomore named Freddie Steinmark. And to Sammy and the girls and to Gloria, who can't be with us today, you guys taught him well because he was cordial, polite, and he minded his manners very well. We lost that football game, as all of you know, but didn't lose another for almost 3 years and 30 football games. It was a hard loss and a long trip. We got back about 3 in the morning, and Freddie, like all of us, was disappointed. But he did have his priorities. He was taught well. I am told that just a few hours later, his roommates awakened to see him straightening his tie, ready to go to Mass on Sunday morning. He was taught well. In the almost 50 years, we've all gone on with our lives. A lot has happened in half a century. The players of that era who have joined us are representatives of Texas graduates who have personified the description of the student athlete. Freddie's life is frozen in time. In his own way, he remains forever young. Today, we come to rededicate a scoreboard named in his honor and to celebrate an upcoming movie and book on his life. In the more than 100 years of Texas athletics, only 2 former Longhorn lettermen have served as athletics director for the University of Texas. The first was a man named Ed Ollie, who lettered in 1926 and stayed through the 1960s at Texas. The other is one of your own, a very successful attorney in Houston. He has returned home to lead the Texas athletics program, and he is here to welcome you today. Guys and gals, here is Mike Perrin.
Thank you, Bill, and let me say thank you to all of you for being here today. This is a special day, and I'm so happy to see teammates and friends from a long time ago here to join us in this momentous occasion. And Sammy, we want to thank you and the family for being here today. What a wonderful tribute to Freddie for y'all to be here. We thank you so much. And I particularly enjoyed being with you at the OU game this year. You brought us great luck, and it was fun to spend several hours with you talking and reminiscing. It was a special time. This is a significant day for all of us here. When Melinda and I answered the call from President Fenves back in September to come up here and join the university and serve as athletic director, we did so happily and joyfully coming home, but with a sense of family. We wanted this to be a family homecoming and get everybody back together. And so family is so important today, and we are especially glad y'all could be here. We're also about honoring a history that's part of the fiber of this great institution and the athletics department and all of us here. At today's game, we will recognize Veterans Appreciation Day. Tomorrow, November the 8th, will mark 91 years since the very first game was played in what was then called Texas Memorial Stadium. 91 years. And the stadium was dedicated to those brave Texans who had died in World War I. Throughout the years since then, it has been rededicated to other veterans of other wars, those who served our country in foreign conflict. In 1996, the name of Darrell K. Royal, himself a veteran of World War II, was added to the stadium. So today we are here at Joe Jamail Field, another veteran, in Darrell K. Royal, Texas Memorial Stadium. And to understand the significance of the reason we're gathered here today, we need to study a little bit more history. Of the thousands, yes, thousands of players who have represented the University of Texas through the years, only 2 have ever been honored with a dedication in some hallowed way at this place, this special stadium. The first such monument was very near where we are today. It was a flagpole erected by the citizens of Fredericksburg, Texas, to honor Louis Jordan, one of the great Longhorn athletic heroes of the early century. He played in 1911, 1915, and he was killed in World War I. We're very near that place. The other player so honored was Freddie Joe Steinmark. So what did these 2 men, separated by time but united in spirit, have in common that made them so special? Both were fighters, absolute fighters. Both had contagious personalities, and that's what I remember so well about Freddie. I call it enthusiastic endeavor. He was just so special, that smile and contagious enthusiasm that he had. They had the kind of personalities that drew you to them. You were magnetized to be with both Mr. Jordan and Freddie. And both embodied character, heart, and faith. They stood for everything that a student athlete should be. The other day, Thursday afternoon at 3 o'clock, in a very moving ceremony, a wreath was laid at the Veterans Plaza in the northwest corner of the stadium complex to honor the Jordan flagpole, which had been moved and rededicated to that area, along with the entablature that we all knew being in the north end of the stadium years ago. And all of that brings us to why we are here today. In 1972, following Freddie's passing in 1971, the university erected a huge scoreboard that we all remember being in this very place. It was dedicated in Freddie's honor and memory at that time. And in the ensuing 43 years, technology has changed, and we're now beneath one of the largest scoreboards in the country, and yet in this same place, resting above the original pedestal. But when we come today to rededicate this scoreboard, we are doing so following the footsteps of the hundreds of players, the thousands of players who have already done it for us. When Mac Brown came here in 1998 to coach, Darrell Royal told him the story of Freddie. And the Longhorn football players began the tradition carried through today, touching this place as they go to the field and dedicating themselves to Freddie and his spirit. They dedicate themselves to the courage that he lived even in the face of long odds. It is they, those players, who with each touch keep Freddie's legacy alive. And it is that legacy which Bud Brigham and others bring to the movie, My All-American, which will be released nationally next week on November the 13th. It's a great movie. I know many of us here have seen it, and it transports me back in time, and it rekindles fond memories of a great teammate. All of us here have special memories of Freddie, and each of us can treasure those. And I find myself in an unusual place. I'm wearing number 28 with the rest of our teammates here in honor of a great man, a teammate full of life, and part of me joins you in that celebration. But I also stand here as an administrator of the University of Texas. And I tell you, Freddie has come to mean through the years everything that is right in college athletics. We honor that memory fondly, those of us who knew him, and those who will learn of him and his great life through the movie as it is seen by many. He played hard, and he was part of an era when we all played for each other. We were teammates. We still are. You can feel it. It is fitting that the university chose to honor Freddie with a scoreboard, because the scoreboard shows who's winning, and Freddie always played hard to win. He played as hard as anybody I ever knew. Sadly, a scoreboard also keeps time. It ticks down the waning moments of a football game, and it may also measure the passing of someone's life, which we know not the determination of that capsule. So today, on behalf of President Greg Fenbiz, Chancellor McRaven, the Board of Regents, and the University of Texas, I am honored to join you and each of you in rededicating this monument to Freddie's memory. Because whether you viewed him as a talented athlete, as we all did, or a symbol of courage, Freddie was something special, always. He was an example of what man can become, a prototype of a life that all of us seek, but few of us find. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And now for a view from the season of 1969, here is one of your captains and teammates, Ted Coy.
I am truly honored and humbled to stand here and speak about Freddie Steinmark. All of you, his teammates, his friends, no doubt have a lot of stories about Freddie and a lot of insights about him. But I'm going to visit with you about three things that I recall about Freddie. And the first is when he came to the university as a recruit. Freddie and Bobby Mitchell came on a recruiting visit, and I was assigned to show Freddie around. And as you recall, in those days, when a recruit came to the campus, a varsity player was assigned to him, and you were to show the recruit the university, get him acquainted with the campus, and then at an assigned time on Saturday morning, you were to take the recruit by, and he was to visit with Coach Royal. So we did that, and I will never forget when Freddie came out of the visit with Coach Royal. I said the normal question, well, how did it go? And Freddie said, and I remember it very well, he said, great. He said, Coach Royal never mentioned my size. He said, all the coaches, college coaches that I've talked to, talked about my size as being a deficit. And he said, Coach Royal never mentioned that. And then what I remember so well, Freddie said, because I can play. He didn't say, I think I can play, or I might can play. He said, I can play. And what was so impressive is that wasn't a cocky statement. That wasn't an arrogant. It was a very confident one. And to me, that was Freddie Steinmark. He was confident in whatever he did. The second thing I remember about Freddie is that upbeat personality. Mike mentioned it. He always had that smile. You couldn't help but smile back to him. You know, you'd see him on campus. You'd see him on the practice field. He always had that smile, and you just it sort of picked you up. I remember so well in the conditioning work, the Medina sessions, when most of us were struggling and wondering if we were going to survive through it. I'd look over and there's Freddie working as hard as anybody else, but he just had that upbeat personality, had a different motor running, and he just, that was him. Regardless if Freddie was on the field, off the field, pre-game, during the game, or post-game, he was always upbeat, and that was infectious. And the third thing I remember about Freddie is he was tough. He was tough. He was not big, but he had that ability to bring all of his assets, physical assets, together and apply himself. And he wasn't big, but he played big. Now, I remember, too, so well in spring training and in the 2 days before the season when we'd have scrimmages as a running back, I could always tell when Freddie was one of the tacklers because he came with a thud. Stan Malden and Freddie Steinmark weren't the biggest guys, but they always felt like a sledgehammer hit you. And I remember that so well about Freddie. Freddie carried that same toughness when he was diagnosed with cancer and has lost his leg. There was a time he could have stepped aside, he could have stepped in the shadows, but he used that same intensity that he had prevailed all through his life, and he maintained that to the very end. As a teammate that played with Freddie, his enthusiasm was so contagious, and as a player, a teammate, and a friend of Freddie, my life was enhanced. My life was blessed because I knew Freddie Steinmark. Thank you.
A couple of things before we proceed. Mike mentioned Veterans Day, and we are honored to have with us Frank Denius, who is chairman of our Veterans Committee, and one of the very special members of that committee, a young man named Nate Boyer, who's come in from LA for this. So Frank, thank you, and Nate and all the committee for all that they do. Mention has been made of the movie My All-American, and it does premiere across the country next week. And we'd like to take a minute to welcome and say thank you to the writer and director of the movie, Angelo Pizzo, and the man whose generosity and vision made it possible, Bud Brigham. Angelo and Bud, thank you both very much for what you've done. Many people made a run at trying to tell this story, and only these two have succeeded, and they've done it in such a wonderful way, and I think you all who have seen it would agree, and those who have the opportunity next week to see it as a premiere will be thrilled with what it is. In response to the film, a flag was flown over the Texas State Capitol last week in tribute. Mike mentioned our president, Dr. Fenves, who is kind enough to join us today to present this flag to Sammy and the girls in the Steinmark family. When I think of scholars and academic leaders, I think of two words. One is learned, which means one has studied and absorbed knowledge well. The other is wisdom, and that is a trait which is a gift. This is the third anniversary of the death of Coach Royal. And I remember a conversation I had with him years ago about how people treat other people. And his comment was, Bill, I have always thought that the mark of a person is how they treat people who can never do anything for them. Wisdom and how you treat people are the embodiment of a learned, compassionate leader, and that defines our university president, who will now present the flag to the Steinmark family. Here is Dr. Fenves. And now we'd like to bring up Leslie Cedar, the Executive Director of the Texas Exes, for another very special presentation.
Well, hi everyone. This is football weather. Thank you, Freddie. It's going to be a great game. And thank you, Mike and Chris and President Fenves, for allowing me to come today. I'm so honored to meet the Steinmark family. Would it be okay if I touch the plaque? So in 1971, I was only 5 years old, so I didn't get to meet Freddie, but I know of his life story so well. And as CEO and Executive Director of the Texas Exes, I do represent the official Alumni Association of the University of Texas at Austin, and we take great pride in our role as champions of the tradition and spirit of this great university. That spirit, the Longhorn spirit. It's sometimes difficult to define, but we know it when we see it. And Coach Royal clearly saw it in an unrecruited and undersized Colorado boy who made up for it with his heart and his hard work. Freddie Steinmark, number 28, became the soul of a championship-winning team. His courage inspires generations of Longhorns to dream bigger and aim higher. From time to time, the Texas Exes bestows a life membership on individuals who embody the university's highest ideals. Today, we are so honored to name Freddie Steinmark life member number 100,028. Here to accept the membership on behalf of his brother is Sammy Steinmark. Please welcome Sammy.
Sammy, it's all yours.
Is this okay? On behalf of my family, my mother, and all my family that's here, I'm truly honored and humbled to be here, as I think all of you know most about me, but some of these guys do in here. And I always thought you played in the game of century, but you were the perfect storm of the men of the century that were on that team, including the trainers and the coaches. What a great crew. Probably never happen again. But I can remember my father telling Freddie, which he told me. He said, hey, if you're going to light up the scoreboard, you play to win. And if you do light it up, you best play for keeps. And I think Freddie pretty much lived by that. And having the scoreboard rededicated to him is such an honor. And he would have been humbled to be part of you guys. And I think you know that. So on behalf of our family, thank you so much. I'm here.
Couple of quick reminders. Yes, please. Just a couple of quick reminders. On the 10-minute mark on the clock, we would like you to gather at the statues down here, all of the former lettermen to join the Steinmark family. The presentation on the field from Mike to the family of a jersey and some other things will be done at that point. And if you could, please join us at the statue at 10 minutes on the clock. So you may want to start moving down fairly soon after the game starts. There also is an endowed scholarship in Freddie's name. If you have interest in participating in that, it is somewhere around $86,000, I think, at this point. And if you're interested in participating, please contact the Longhorn Foundation, and they'll be happy to give you the information on that. Again, it is a day that we celebrate. It is a day that we honor. It is a day that in all of us, I know, there is a piece of our heart that will always be here. Thank you. Have a great afternoon. And now, if you would, let's stand and sing The Eyes of Texas. The eyes of Texas are upon you all the livelong day. The eyes of Texas are upon you. You cannot get away. Do not think you can escape them. From night or early in the morn. The eyes of Texas are upon you till Gabriel blows his horn. Thank you.